Hey, everybody, welcome back into another edition of the Inside Nebraska podcast, along with Greg Smith, our senior recruiting analyst at Inside Nebraska. I'm Zack, Carpenter, publisher of the site. Greg, today, again, talking Nebraska Coach Search. What else? I know we've
We
been,
back.
yeah, we back and we haven't really left. I mean, it's again,
No.
officially day number 73 of the search. And we've been running out some videos talking about some different discussion points, debates about the coach search. We did on Sunday, debating the timeline, whether or not Nebraska should have announced the hire before the end of the season or whether they still should. We talked about the priorities for the next Husker coach. You and Clint did a video talking about recruiting goals for the next coach. Today, I wanted to address one that you're pretty passionate about and interested in talking about, and it's pretty relevant, especially with the way a lot of our subscribers and the fan base reaction has had to a lot of the names that are thrown out. Everyone has an opinion, and it seems like no one can come to an agreement on who should be the next coach or what Nebraska needs. I mean, every name that's thrown out, people either love it or hate it for whatever reason, right? So we wanted to talk about today. The topic is, does Nebraska need to hire a coach that unites the fan base?
Yeah, which is it is a fascinating topic to me, because like what you said on the insiders board, it is like and social media, it is all over the place on reaction to every name, and it's one of those things where like we've now got like these recurring jokes within the search, like this week who's going to be the Mike Riley 2.0 that of the search, because every like for some reason that's become like this slanderous thing to say about someone is like, oh, that coach is really just Mike Riley 2.0, or like who's the guy that is like the flavor of the day, and like even those people aren't agreed upon, right? Like even kind of like, like, and this is not, I'm not saying that Lane Kiffin is in the mix for Nebraska's job. I don't believe that he is, but he's a person that even when his name comes up, there's mixed reaction to him, right? Yeah, he's a good coach, but he doesn't really stay anywhere. I kind of don't like his antics, yada yada. Like there don't seem to be a lot of consensus. This is the guy, or this would be the guy that made everyone happy candidates out there, even, and I hate to even say the name without like the rumor mill running wild. You know where I'm going. Urban Meyer is a guy that still doesn't have unanimous kind of support behind him, and listen, for good reason. That's not, I'm not gonna minimize the fact of why you would have opposition to him off the field, but it's just been fascinating to me to see all of this play out, of how people can't get united behind anyone. And you then add on the way that this search has been unfolding, where we don't have a ton of concrete things. You haven't had that like report of these are absolutely Nebraska's top three guys. We're all hearing about, say, three names, and that's kind of where that's also a, by the way, a telltale sign of how the search has been all over the place, is that none of us have like one guy that we're like, oh yeah, that's definitely going to be the guy. Everyone is saying, no, we've got a three. And so that part of it adds another layer onto this. But like you mentioned off top, once we've got to kind of where the like last five names or so have been mentioned, there's been a lot of kind of, I guess I would say, to put it nicely, angst about the names that seemingly are in the mix for this Nebraska job.
Yeah, there's angst and anxiety because I think along with it going on as long as it has, there's angst about whether or not the search going on this long is a good or a bad thing, because
Mm-hmm.
it's going to go on this long because Trev's had his man all along and it has just been waiting, or is he in scramble mode? A number of different factors. But it's yeah, you said there's like three names and it changes. It doesn't change daily, it changes hourly. It feels like
Right.
this merry-go-round. I mean, talk about a coaching carousel. It's a carousel of names that are thrown out on a daily, and who the top guys are that are at the top of toward the top of Trev's list, or yada yada. Like it seems to change all the time. And you talk about not having a fan base having unanimous feeling toward a certain coach one way or the other. You're not going to get that unanimous feeling. I'm not even sure if there's many guys who you would get close to. I mean, the Nebraska fan base is too big for that to have everybody on the same track. But Trev did talk about in his latest update on the radio show last week about he was asked by a listener, what can you explain the issues like over the last 20 years? What's been the main problem? Like what needs to be addressed? And Trev said that's one of the questions he's gotten throughout the last 2.5 months, right? Is what's the issue? And he went into a soliloquy metaphor about that was talking about everybody pretty much being on the same page and everyone moving in the right direction. And on the outside, like just at face value, you might think that he's just talking about behind the scenes, the infrastructure, like the administration, coaches, athletic director. But if you read a little more deeply into it, he's also talking about the fan base. The fan base also needs to be moving in the right direction. And it's hard after all these years, especially the last few, for the fan base to have confidence in really any of the coaches that are named, because no one has worked out in the long term for such a period of time.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things, the only time that and it took a very special circumstance, the only time that you were going to have unanimous backing of a coach was Scott Frost. And that happened. Like we're never going to see probably that again, where you have that type of unanimous support. And we know how that turned out. And the reason I bring that up is not to poke people, but to actually give people credit for, I think that has done more damage to kind of the fan base psyche than people want to give it credit for. I think that everyone thought that Scott Frost was like the slam dunk top coach of that cycle. It made all the sense in the world that he was going to come back and restore Nebraska. And then it not only did it not go well, it failed in spectacular fashion to the numbers say that Scott Frost was the worst coach in the history of the school. So I understand why, if you throw out, say, a Chris Kleiman or a Lance Leipold or a Jeff Monken or whoever, why the fan base would go, is that guy really going to be able to do it? If, the like homegrown poster child for all of this couldn't get it done, can he get it done now? Or like the thing that I continues to also come up is, well, those coaches are going to get us to 7 wins or 8 wins, and that's about it. And I laugh as I'm even saying that, because if you told Nebraska fans right now, the majority of them, not kind of the unrealistic ones, that when you sign up for 7 or 8 wins next year, you'd absolutely take that in a heartbeat, based on where this program has been. So there's a lot wrapped up into there. And so to answer the actual question, I don't actually think that you need a coach to unite the fan base, quote unquote, at the press conference. I think that you need to be looking, if you're Trev Alberts, your mission should be, can I get someone to unite the fan base a couple of years down the road, like when they've got this thing going and you're now kind of back to being a perennial bowl team, a team that competes for the division, for the and for the conference down the road from there. Like, I just think that that's going to take time. I just don't think that there's going to be a candidate, and God, I'm going to say this and I'm going to get burned. I don't think that there's going to be a candidate that is going to just wow everybody necessarily, that's going to be hired and then say, okay, everybody's excited now. I think it's going to be a wait and see approach, or it's more likely than not that it will be a wait and see approach. See, this is how you know that this thing has been so weird. I'm doing too much couching, but that's where we are. What did you say, day 73 of this coaching search?
Yep, officially day 73. A couple of things on your points was Trev, when he said, and it's pretty much a almost famous quote, at least in the Inside Nebraska staff circles, that we're not looking to win the press conference. And that was safe. It was calculated, smart response, because I think he probably knew that this was going to be a long slog of a coaching search, and you don't know ultimately. And he knows the fan base too. I think he knows that.
Yeah, he knows.
Done to hire would not be, like, we keep using the word unanimous approval rating, no matter what the decision is. But last thing that I wanted to ask before we get out of here is, So talking about a coaching candidate who could unite the fan base, who in your mind are realistic hires that would unite the fan, has the best chance of the highest approval rating, and then on the flip side, who do you think would be the one who would have the least, the lowest approval rating of the guys that we've talked about over the last month, 2 months?
Yeah, I think that the two names at the top for me are Matt Rule and Luke Fickle. And we don't know. We don't. Okay, I would say that Matt Rule has been talked to and talked about quite a bit, and I think it is safe to say that he's been very much in the mix for this job. The degree of where he is at this point can be debated. That's not the point of this video. The Luke Fickle has been someone who has hung around the kind of the side and the outskirts of this search the whole time as someone that Trev could potentially be talking to kind of on the sly. Those two guys would get you the closest to that. And I think of the two, Fickle would be the highest of all of that. And there are just many reasons why people would love that hire the same way that the Notre Dame people would have loved that hire last year, right?
It
And
would
so,
be
yeah,
an
those two would be
absolute
great.
grand slam,
It would be
knock it
it
out of the
would be a
stadium.
whoa, yeah, whoa, he did that. Like, okay, maybe we should have trusted him all along, kind of thing. Yeah, that would be amazing. And then I think that Rule would be just a step down from that, to be totally honest, of where I sit. On the complete other end of the spectrum, it stinks because his name surfaced yesterday, but Bronco Mendenhall would be on the total opposite end of that spectrum as someone who's not in coaching that Trev could have had at any point during this search, really. If he ends up being the guy, there are reports out there that, there was at least contact made yesterday between Trev and Bronco. I think that Jeff Monken is another name that would be closer to the Bronco side than the Matt Rule side, though I would say that Jeff Monken has much higher upside than Bronco Mendenhall on that end, too. Obviously connected to his cousin Todd, the offensive coordinator at Georgia. He's been coaching for a long time and has a lot of connections to different people. I could see some interesting things happening there and could get myself there mentally. And I think the fan base would eventually too, but the initial reaction would not be good. Let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on those two, on the approval rating, the lower approval rating, and then somewhere I think in the middle would be Leipold and Kleiman, and then toward the
Yep.
top again we're on the same agreement with Fickle and Rule. I think Rule would be a home run out, but he would be a fantastic hire. But Luke
He'd
Fickle,
be a two. He'd be a two-run home run, and Luke Fickle would be a grand slam. How
yeah,
about
that's
that?
that's a good metaphor. I mean, we use baseball terms. We could use
There you
basketball
go.
terms. I mean, Luke Fickle would be a between the legs 360 windmill dunk, and Matt Rule would just be probably a 360 dunk if you want.
Yeah,
If
there
you
you go.
want put it in those terms, but 360 dunk is still really, really, really
It's still awesome. You still love it.
um, but then you just throw Dave Aranda's name out there. He, I think, would probably be right at the top, probably along the same Luke Fickle lines, but I'm not sure how realistic that is anymore. I know we put his name in there, but if Trev's gonna pull off a surprise, Aranda would not. Aranda would qualify as that
Yeah.
explosive surprise, but we're starting to get into the speculation game here at the end of this video a little bit. Again, we've been putting these out on the Inside Nebraska YouTube channel, so check those out, like and subscribe. Get those right in your feed. Check out the Inside Nebraska site at nebraska.rivals.com. And with all this talk is eventually going to be just talk that's in the ether out there somewhere, because we should be finding out sooner than later. Again, getting to the finish line. It's November 22nd as we're recording this. Should know. Maybe I shouldn't say should know, but at the earliest we'll know is November 26th, Saturday. More likely that November 27th and beyond in the following days is more likely for an announcement, but it'll all be over soon. Then we can put it behind us and get to the fun
Then we'll debate if the hire was right and what the process was.
Yeah, we'll be hopping back on, and then we'll be diving into features, analysis columns, and news stories and the like. So going to be a crazy month ahead, but for now, it's almost playing the waiting game. So Until next time, for Greg Smith, I'm Zack Carpenter, and we will catch you guys again later.